Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Psychology of Competitive Gaming. Today, I want to talk about communication because when you're playing in any game, there's a lot of times where you have to work together. If either you have to play with your teammates, with randoms, or whatever, communication is very important. In this episode, I want to talk about how can you communicate with your teammates, or even if you are a coach, how can you help your team perform better. But first off, I want to talk about the impact of positive communication. Because every study shows, and I like a lot of studies done on this, that negative feelings influence your performance in a negative way. So if you feel tilted, if you get flamed, if you feel bad about yourself, about how you perform or whatever, it influences your performance even more. So that means that when you're not feeling well or not feeling happy, you perform worse. There's a little bit less evidence of positive feelings increasing your performance, but at least it helps to perform as good as you can. So when you are playing with your teammates, it's really important to reinforce them in a positive way. Think about compliments, telling them what they did good, and giving them small verbal rewards when they do something well, because that can really boost the positive feeling they have, and that can make sure they won't perform or underperform. And partly it has to do with the self-fulfilling prophecy and the Pygmalion effect. This states that when you have a certain expectation of a person, like your teammate or someone in your team, they that expectations comes true. And how this works is as following. Imagine you have a teacher who really thinks you suck. Like you can't do your subjects, you only get insufficient marks, etc. This will make sure that the teacher won't ask you any questions in class, or they won't help you more because they think, you can't do it anyway, like the fixed mindset. And because of that lack of those extra attention that they might need, they'll perform worse too. So if you have bad expectations of someone, it's more likely that you won't help them as much as someone who is very good. And that's also what a Pygmalion effect is, like the positive effect of the self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you do believe in someone who can really grow and show potential, then you are really willing to help them more. And it's all subconscious. So most of the people don't even notice they do this. But there are plenty of studies which show that this actually is true, even though the people who have those expectations of people don't really notice it themselves. So when you have a team or teammates, try to think the best of them, because this will really help to make them help perform better. So keep the growth mindset like for them. And being positive is a discipline because it's pretty hard to stay positive, but you have to make the aware decision to be positive, even if everything goes against you. Because being positive is really hard to do, but it is a choice in the end, and it's a hard choice, and it's really difficult. And if you have depression or anxiety or whatever is happening in life, it's really hard to do that, and maybe even impossible. But by trying to uh, form your negative thoughts or negative expectations to something more positive and more productive, it can really help. So let's talk a little bit about coaching. And either if you're a coach or just a teammate, this can always help. You always give feedback to people. And about feedback, I'll talk about that later. But there are two ways you can coach. Like you can be a positive coach or a negative coach. In general, about 80% of the people um, perform better when coaching is positive. So they get compliments. They tell you did a good job when you did, and stuff like that. But only 20% are like, you tell me I suck, I'll do better. So, so there are people who like the negative kind of coaching, like you dare me to do the better. But most of the people like positive more. So when you have a teammate, you have to look at that and see what they want. And I would start when you just meet them, stay positive and see if that works. But if you notice they get really competitive with the negative coaching, maybe that can help too. But the most important thing is whatever you do are intervals. And what I mean with that is that you don't only do one thing all the time at the same time. Any reward is way better when it's unexpected and kinda rare. Like think about a casino, like you don't always win, and only very small times that you do. But that's so addicting, because the chance of getting a reward is even better than the actual reward. It's really weird. It is also shown in studies with pigeons where they have to press the bell and sometimes they get food and sometimes they don't. They press the bell faster and more often than when they always get a reward after they press the bell. That's really weird. Another important thing is sportsmanship. And sportsmanship is something that's really important because that's a really big aspect of the positivity that allows people to perform better. So you can get mad at the enemy or the opponent, but in the end, it's all about having a good game. And you don't have to tear people down to get to the top. And by being more sportsmanship like, you'll see around you that people are more positive towards you. You have less of that negative feeling inside you, and so you won't perform less. So stay positive and be happy about it. And last thing, what's really helpful as a coach is to ask what they think. You don't have to give them advice all the time. You can think, what would you do in this situation? Or what would you do differently this time? And by asking them, you can make yourself less needed, less necessary. So they can themselves learn how to analyze themselves. Okay, you can perform better even without your help. And I think personally that's the best thing a coach can do. Teach your team or your teammates how to think for themselves and how to analyze themselves so they can get better by themselves. So let's talk about feedback. Because feedback is like the opposite of something negative. It's something amazing. Because if you can learn from your feedback that you get and you can give very good feedback, it helps so much with the performance. There are a few things that I want to talk about what could help with feedback. Because first you have to understand that the feedback you give or get is a perceiving. You perceive it in some way. And either if it's meant like, or you perceive it like he's meant the feedback or not, that doesn't really matter. It's about knowing that what they tell you could differ from what they mean. And that's something to always keep in mind. The next thing is that it has to be as soon as possible. If you tell something about, if you give feedback about something that happened like 5 months ago, they'll have no use to it. They don't remember really well, and it's probably really outdated. The sooner you tell the feedback, like even like right after the game, for example, that's the best. Or even in the game if there's room for it. Make sure it doesn't get negative in that sense. In a bit, I'll tell you about how to actually give correct feedback. Next up is be specific. Tell them exactly what you did. If you say, "Oh, you did good," then it might be 100 things that you might have done good, but you don't know exactly what he meant. So say, "You did this thing, this specific thing. You did that well. Keep doing that." Then there are two types of feedback you can give: motivational feedback or instructional feedback. Well, motivational feedback basically means that you want to support them and want them to continue. So you want to motivate them to continue. Like, good job, keep going. Let's try again. Stuff like that, but I'm more specific. Instructional is more on the physical state of people. So how did they do something? How can they perform? Like next time, move this way or this way. Stuff like that. That could be feedback. So with giving the feedback, there are a few rules or more guidelines to help you give better feedback. Because if you just say do this, do this, do this, then it's not feedback, then it's criticism. And that might also be very good for some people, but it's way better, I think personally, to make it clear what you mean and that you mean it to help them and not because they suck. So be direct. And what I mean with that, there are a lot of things people can improve on. Like with everything, there are hundreds of things for one specific object they can get better at. So tell them what it is, what they need to improve on, and make it your own. Tell them what it does to you. So, for example, if I play Rocket League and someone challenges in a bad way. They can say, okay, I think that next time you could challenge faster than this time, because then I think you would win the ball. Something like that. Just make it your own. Tell it from your perspective. And again, be specific and consistent. Like one time, if you say you should have gone for it, and then the other time you shouldn't, it's really hard for the person who is receiving it to understand exactly when you should go and not. So make clear for yourself what you mean. Be specific in that. Like when do you have to go and when don't you have to go, or whatever it is that you say. Be consistent in it. And mention one thing at a time. Like if you tell 20 things they can improve on, and you might try everything a little bit, it doesn't help. It's better to focus on one thing at a time and make sure that works and that's clear what you mean with it and you can work on that, than that you tell 20 things and it's way too overwhelming. So just stick with one at a time. And give them time to improve. If you watch my video about neuroplasticity, your brain needs time to create these pathways in your brain. So give them time to improve and don't be angry at them when they need time to learn your feedback. So now you know how to give feedback, but when should you give feedback? Because the timing is really important. First of all, it's your intention. What do you want to achieve with this feedback? Like, do you just want to be angry and yell at them because they're bad? Or do you actually want to help them? Next is what you say, is it a fact or is it an opinion? And either is fine to tell them. You have to know it for yourself. Because if you think something is a better way, one way, it's better to say, okay, I think this way to approach the ball or approach the champion or the enemy, whatever, is better. Or you can say, this boost plays spawns here, which is a fact, you know? And difference between is really important. Because if you state an opinion as a fact, it can be really negative for the other person. And I really believe that it's really important to be supportive in it. So really tell feedback to help them, not to put them down or anything. And after that, check if they understand it. Ask them a question, hey, do you understand what I mean? Can I explain it more? Can I help you somehow with it? Check if it landed with them. And last, think of yourself, are you the right person to tell this? Because self-efficacy means that they believe that you're competent enough to know what you're talking about. If the other person doesn't believe you're good enough to give you feedback, then it probably works the other way around. It doesn't help at all. For example, if you're a diamond and you get advice from a gold player, you're probably not gonna take it serious. Of course, when in a team, it's probably equal, so you most likely don't have this in your team. But think about your coaching. If you coach and you don't really play the game yourself, you only have a few good ideas and whatever, then there might be some self-efficacy doubt in your teammates. So be aware of that and ask and talk about that, because talking about it can remove it. Then when you receive feedback, there are first a few things to be helpful, because it can be really attacking or feel being attacked when you get feedback. So when you get feedback, try to understand it. If it's not really clear, ask for an example, for example. Like ask what he means and try to make the other person talk about it really specific. And don't defend yourself. Most of the people who give feedback means it with a good heart. They want to help you. So just accept it and you don't have to do anything with it, but just thank them, go with it. Yeah, and ask to understand again. Be aware that the other person is trying to help you and is trying his best to give you feedback and to help you perform better. But there are also not professional people probably who are the best or the best, you know? So they don't have everything, they don't know everything either. So be aware of that. And approach with empathy. Like they, like I keep saying, they're really trying to help you most of the time. So even if it's something that you really disagree with, just try to understand and thank them. So in summary, positivity has an influence on your performance. If you feel really negative because you're tilted or if you got flamed or whatever, you will perform less. And coaching can really help to motivate people to continue and to get better. When you give feedback, be really specific. Give good timing of your feedback, so know what are your intentions and does this actually help them? And when you get feedback, try to understand it. And this is what I wanted to tell you about today. So I hope this helps you in any way. If it does, please leave a like and subscribe to find more about performance. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.